Welcome to the Productpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Jalarzak, product development and marketing coach and mom of three. Learn from and get inspired by women entrepreneurs killing it in the product space. Each episode, we will share the latest trends, proven strategies, and inside secrets of the product world, all designed to give you greater confidence to create your own success through a product venture. Let's do this. Before we begin our episode, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all the listeners out there who have supported this show, have subscribed, rated, reviewed, and shared it, who participated in the interviews. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to you, the Productpreneur Podcast has been charting in the top 200 in business entrepreneurship in Canada and Australia, and just last week, the top 100 in Canada on Apple Podcasts. Why does this matter? Well, besides it being every podcaster's dream, I'm not going to lie, it helps people like you find the show. One reason for this ranking has been the amazing reviews that have come in, and I'd like to highlight one today. This one is from EMEE4444. It says, Nicole knows everything. If you need help to launch and scale a product-based business, this is 100% the podcast for you. Nicole has great guests on, and she seriously knows her stuff. Thank you so much for this review. I'm so grateful. And if you want to leave a review, please do so on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people like you find the show. And now for our show. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Lori Turk, owner of April Ideas and inventor of the SAFEGRATE kitchen gadget. Let me ask you a question. Have you or someone you know cut themselves in the kitchen recently grating or slicing food? I know I have, and so have my kids. Lori is inventor of the SAFEGRATE kitchen gadget and founder of the April Ideas company she created to support this consumer product. Laid off after 26 plus years as a specialist sales / rare disease medicine representative in the pharmaceutical industry, it was a chance event in her kitchen of cutting her thumbnail painfully while grating a potato that inspired her to invent a solution to the problem she seemed to experience often in her kitchen. She was sure she wasn't the only kitchen klutz, and her research confirmed this. Like most entrepreneurs, she does virtually everything in the company as a startup, and after her product was on the market for only 3 months, she was nominated for a Startup of the Year award with the Mompreneurs, now called Revolution Her, Canada-wide organization. Lori has parlayed that sales background with optimistic persistence, resulting in having a sales agency take on her SAFEGRATE in Canada within 6 months of launch. Her hope is that most households in the world who have a grater will think of pulling a SAFEGRATE out of their drawer to use with it so they won't cut themselves like she did. In this episode, you'll learn about the steps Lori took to bring her product to the market, the patent process and what options you have, how testing your prototype in every way is vital to do before launching, ways she has gained distribution including launching on Amazon and hiring a distributor, and the key behavior you must have as an entrepreneur. Now, I ordered a SAFEGRATE just prior to this recording, and I've tried it out. It is seriously a gift, and my son, who loves to cook, is going to be so grateful. No pun intended. He cuts himself all the time grating, and he is going to just love it. Anyhow, enjoy the show. All right, welcome to the show, Lori. I'm so excited to have you here. It's been wonderful watching your journey. We met at a mutual networking group for women in business, and then we spoke before your product was launched, and then I saw your product out in the market and it was so exciting, and I wanted to have you on the show so you could share your journey about how you got to where you were and all the ups and downs along the way. So welcome.
Oh, thanks, Nicole. And people should know you and I met because of your expertise in marketing and your experience in retail, that I came to you for much needed advice. And it was so helpful and much appreciated. So I just want people to know that.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy it was helpful for you. Thank you. So please tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur or / inventor, because you are an inventor.
Well, I don't know if this is normal, but since I was probably like in university, ideas come to your mind for different products. I bet you it happens to every single one of us. You think, oh, someone should do this, or this would be a great product. And to be honest, it's always been on my bucket list for me because I've had so many ideas, to actually create a product, and then we'll have an idea and then create it and then bring it to market. And then the final most important step, that it be profitable. To me, that was the biggest business challenge that a person could pursue. And it just seems so exciting to me. I was always a little bit, what do you call, like I was always watching for an opportunity to arise. But, I don't know, I was in a good, steady paying job for most of my working career. And I really enjoyed the work. It wasn't really until I was laid off after 26 years in that job, actually even longer. And then the security of a job just wasn't there for me anymore. So I had to be even more open to different future employment and income earning opportunities.
Interesting. That's true for so many people, that they are in a steady corporate job. Something happens in their life, some kind of shift, either kids or they're laid off, and then they realize, I can't just rely on a corporate income. Is that what you thought to yourself? Like, I can't just rely on a corporate income. I need to find something else as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the primary breadwinner in the family too. And, you've got your monthly mortgage payments. And even though I had pretty good savings, I don't want to dip into those if I have to. And also, I loved work. I loved being engaged with people and business. I really enjoyed business. So I wasn't quite ready to not do that much. So I had to be ready for other opportunities.
Right. Okay, great. And when did you come up with your idea, and how did you think of your idea?
Yes, it truly kind of came out of the blue in a way. So I was in my kitchen preparing dinner, like so many millions of us, and I was absently minded, thinking about some upcoming interviews I had for some future positions, and I was grating a potato. Sometimes I tell people that and they start to cringe just because they can visualize what happened next. And I cut my nail when I was grating the potato, like right back to the skin. Oh, it hurt so much. But I was really angry because I thought, God darn it, why doesn't somebody invent something so you don't cut yourself every time you use a grater? Because I had probably done it 3 times that year. And I had to keep grating like dinner was ready. So, I quickly put a Band-Aid on, kept going at it. And then I thought, maybe is this it? Is this my moment? Like, should I try and invent something to cure this problem? Am I the only klutz on the block that needs this? And I thought, oh, Lori, that's such a long shot, and it's such a risk. Perhaps I should sleep on it. That's how I always deal with serious problems. I'm like, just sleep on it and see how you feel in the next morning. Honestly, the next morning, I was so excited about the prospect of this that I kind of couldn't help but move forward.
Amazing. And could you find any other products on the market like this?
So that was one of the first research steps that I had to take. I made a list of all the important things I had to do. And one of them was, is there anything else out there? So luckily for us in the modern day, I could just go to Amazon or Alibaba online and how do you word finger protectors or graders. And my original concept was different than what I ended up with. And I think that's not uncommon for people who invent products, because originally I thought I'd like to create, this grater so that you put cheese on it, you attach it, and you walk away. So you can do everything else you need to in the kitchen. And then because you walk away, your fingers are safe. And I did find some things kind of like that, electrical, but there wasn't a lot. But secondly, and very, very important, I had to determine, is this actually a problem that people have? And is it a problem enough that they're willing to pay money to solve that problem? Because it's one thing to say, oh, yeah, that'd be great. But then if they see the price of it, oh, it's not that much of a problem that I'm willing to put $20 out for it. So I had to do some market research, which really entailed me asking as many people as I could. Is this a problem that you have? I did kind of have a formal questionnaire. I did have some parties with some friends to get their feedback and opinion. And it really did help determine for me moving forward, there wasn't a product that I personally would feel solve my specific problem at the price range that I wanted. And so I decided to move forward.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I'm so happy. This is music to my ears that you did consumer research. This is exactly what I preach is just you have to do your research and talk to people out there because it might be a problem for you but may not be a problem for everybody. So you did your competitive research and you researched with consumers. And let me tell you, I think I was telling you before, but I'll say this to the listeners. My son, he loves to cook, and about 3 times already he's cut himself, and I kept saying to myself, "Oh, I got a product for that. I know somebody who's developed a product for that." So I've just ordered it. Can't wait to try it. But
Yay.
yeah, for sure, it's a need for so many people. So you are solving this big need, and can't wait to see your success with this product because I know it will be successful.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm really happy you did that research and great. Like you were scrappy. You did your consumer research with parties and you talked to as many people as you could. So I think that's another thing with entrepreneurs is just to be resourceful and do what you can with the resources that you have.
You have to be somewhat careful because I was applying for some patents and I was advised by my intellectual property lawyer that I can't talk about it or do official, she kind of shut down my official marketing parties where people are testing it and using it and they're hearing the name because you are in effect putting it out into the public realm, and that could prevent you then from getting, if the patent office found out about that it's not so unique that people know about it, then you could be hooped. And also it was really, really important for me to get right early on a non-disclosure agreement written up so that if I spoke to, actually even friends, I had all my friends sign my non-disclosure agreements. I had business people who, like retailers, is this something you think that you'd see value in? Not necessarily like I'd go to Bed Bath and Beyond and I'd speak to the store manager. I wouldn't have him sign it. But people who I'd spend maybe a decent amount of time with or who would be involved with the creation of it, like a man that helped me design it, I had him sign it before I even spoke to him about it.
That's true. You have to be careful with the competition and yeah, signing a non-disclosure agreement for sure. Now, with your patent, had you signed or applied for a patent before you started to speak with people, or was it after you started to speak with people, or when did you apply for a patent?
Yeah, that's a really good question because sometimes your design changes or
Mhm.
like from my original plan. So my original plan was to create this finger guard, and a man that was helping me with it, he was an electrical engineer, and my original idea was for an electrical product, and I clued in just using like bits of scotch tape, foam, scissors, cardboard, that the best thing is your hand, and I needed something to help protect your hand because your hand can grip the food really, really like the best, almost like, imagine gripping a beet and trying to grate it. And so I switched from electric, and anyhow, he created a design and I advised changes to it. But then, and we had prototypes made. So all this time, I have non-disclosure agreements going on with everybody. And so we had to test those prototypes. See, each time you go to a lawyer, it costs you money. You're using their time. So if you go to them with a design that you later design, which happened to me, actually, you decide you're going to change, then that money you've just spent to submit for a design has gone out the window, just lost money. And I realized partway through it was a mistake to make it out of plastic, and that for safety and efficacy reasons, it needed to be stainless steel. I had to change my design, not heaps, but enough that I had to resubmit, and that cost me. So I wouldn't rush to get a patent application. Really fine tune your design, make sure, or your product, make sure it's what you want to go to market with if possible, unless you've got empty pockets and
Yeah, no, that's interesting because that's always a debate when to apply for the patent before you've designed the prototype, after you've designed the prototype. It's always a question. I know lawyers will say do it as soon as possible, but there are financial considerations for sure.
well, and they also have a vested interest, right, in you applying as soon as possible.
Yes. And how did you develop the product? You talked about getting prototypes. Where did you start?
I really lucked out. And so the best advice I can give to people is network, network, network. A father of one of the hockey players on my son's team, I knew he had made a prototype out of something with a 3D printer. And so I asked him, did he know anybody who had electrical background? Because I was going to make this electrical device. And he said, oh, I know an electrical engineer. So I invited the guy over for dinner and I told him my story. And then he's like, yeah, I'll work on it. But then I worked on it, a design myself, just using really scrappy pieces of whatever. I went to Michael's and bought basic supplies. I even had pipe cleaners in my design. Then I called this fellow up. He came over. I said, stop. No, we're not doing the electrical. We're going to do a different one. And he drew something really rough, but he had the skill. And many of your listeners may have this. I did not. So I had to pay for it. Like if you have a drawing, to put it on the computer. So it's a certain version that manufacturers would require and what a 3D printer would require. So it was almost like a 3D or a 2D rendition. Luckily for me, this guy was connected to a printer, like a 3D printer. And you can find those in the yellow pages, and you can find people who can help you bring your ideas and your designs to fruition, but you just got to make sure they sign those non-disclosure agreements first. So we printed out, it actually only cost me like $35, $70 each time a prototype was printed
Really?
out. Yeah, it would come out the exact size and the way I wanted it. It was just a different kind of plastic than what the final plastic would be. And then that way I could test it in the kitchen and I could have friends test it to see if it worked. And we made some small little adjustments, changes. And each time it would cost me again like $50, $75, which honestly is not very much. I was very lucky because it was just one piece of material. But then when I had to switch to stainless steel, but I had the diagram, like this engineer continued, he helped me. We needed to use a different program if it was going to be stainless steel. And the prototype then cost me closer to $750 US to get made. But still from there, I made small little adjustments. So it kept costing me, a little bit more, but then that meant I loved my final product. It was just the way I wanted it. And so that's when I went to the lawyer, the submissions for the patent, and it was a design patent. So I don't know if you want me to talk just really quickly about the different patents.
Yeah, I think that's if that was part of your process of considering it, I'm not sure everyone is familiar with the different types.
Well, yeah, it's really kind of basic. So there's there's probably more than two, but for me in making a product, two main types of patents you can apply for, and you can apply for them both at the same time. The first one is called a utility patent. That is the kahuna. That is the one you want that'll save you from people copying. You can take them to court over it, and it has to do with the unique utility, like how it works and what it does, that it's unique, nothing's out there. Like when an air fryer first came out, for instance, when a microwave first came out, they probably had the patent for, and there's probably patents within, like all the different processes and designs. The other is called a design patent. So it's your unique shape and maybe color and what have you. And I was advised that odds were I would not be able to get a utility patent because unbeknownst to me, once we did a patent search, some people had applied for patents that were somewhat similar to my idea, similar enough that it could be rejected. The whole time you're going forward with this, it's costing you money because you're using a lawyer. If you do it yourself, it will take hours and hours and hours. I strongly do suggest you go through an intellectual property lawyer. Just make sure you have all your ducks in a row so you really get your money's worth. But they're so helpful and valuable. And then you apply in Canada, you apply in the US. And so each time you're applying in each country, it's costing you. The sooner you apply, the better, of course, because you never know. Someone might be exactly thinking of the same thing in another country. So the sooner you get it in there, the better. And in the United States, they have what's called a provisional patent application, which means it can be like a design, and you have up to 1 year. At least you get it in there, you got that date down, but you have up to 1 year to decide if you want to change your design or make some alterations. So that's really good. If you have a basic idea plan to get it in that you think that's close, then that timing can work for you. I was told a design patent's not worth the money that it's written on, but I felt I needed it because I was going to some major kitchenware manufacturers and distributors in Canada, and I felt that that would give more strength to my sales pitch to them, so to speak. You know, it kind of is easy for people to copy you, just making small little changes.
Got it. So they didn't think you qualified for the utility patent, so you did the design route instead. And did you get a provisional patent as well, or did you skip that step?
I did apply for a provisional patent in the US. And then when we got close to the year, we submitted the formal design, which changed because my initial was the plastic design. They kind of don't care, I don't think, what the material is, because that could be a separate patent in itself, I guess. But I think in the United States, we're still waiting to hear. And just yesterday, I received in Canada, it's called a industrial design patent for my product.
Woohoo! That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was like a year and a half. Thanks. Year and a half at least.
Right. But it's already been in the market. So you didn't stop yourself from continuing to launch it. You just applied for the patent in order to be able to speak to retailers and so on.
Exactly. And in fact, you're kind of covering yourself. I wouldn't put it on the market if you haven't applied yet, but once you apply, then, I mean, it took me months and months before I actually still could get it onto market due to just all the needs and what's required to bring a product to market. But it gave me a real sense of safety and security, just knowing I had that in the background.
Right.
And before I officially launched it on the market, every day I was afraid I'd wake up and I'd look on Amazon and somebody had launched something, you know, that was virtually the same thing and they beat me to the punch. So it's a nerve-wracking
I'm sure.
journey.
So it took you how long to get the Canadian patent? And when did you start applying?
I think it took me about a year and a half because as soon as I thought I had my plastic design ready to go, we started working on it with my engineer and myself, January, February, and I submitted, I think in April to the lawyer, but then it was later that summer when I realized it had to be stainless steel. And honestly, that's another thing. I didn't do enough research on my prototype because that would have saved me thousands of dollars if I had done that properly the first time, because I was just demonstrating to a friend that summer about my product, and it was going to be made out of ABS plastic, which is what the engineer told me would be the perfect material. So that was my first mistake, just accepting what someone said and not checking further on that. So I was showing her, look, like here's a plastic spoon I have made of ABS plastic. I was grating it to show her, see, it works fine. Just a fluke. My grater was on a white piece of paper and my spoon was blue. I pulled my spoon away. I said, see, you can hardly see any scratches, but we saw microfine particles of blue plastic on this white paper.
Oh.
Now, if I hadn't had that white paper there, I probably, even to this day, I would have continued on with plastic.
Wow.
You know?
Oh.
So there also is an element of luck in this journey.
Yeah.
Because I remember feeling sick, thinking, oh my God, I have to start from scratch now. And I kind of did, but at least I knew the steps. I was able to do it quickly, but I lost a couple $1,000s because I hadn't taken the time to really test this whole plastic thing out. And when I talked to different plastic manufacturers here in BC, they all did admit to me, if it's going to go up against a grater, there's no plastic hard enough for that. And like why I didn't do that at the beginning, oh my gosh.
So one key learning is testing your prototype in different ways really well.
Many different ways. Yeah, don't rush that part of the process. That's
right, sure. Definitely. And did you test your prototype with consumers, with other people to get their feedback or anything?
Yep. And the best book I ever read on, you have an idea, how to bring it to market was written by Lori Greiner, from Shark Tank. Oh,
yes, I've read that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, right?
It's really good.
And she said really early on, and I listened to this, that when you're asking people, what do they think about the product? If their first impression is, oh, that's excellent, or I wish I'd thought of that, you need 7 out of 10 people, at least 6 or 7 out of 10 to respond that way. And if not, odds are you don't have a winner of a product. Sometimes people say, oh, I don't grate very often. And I did get someone who was a caterer that said she didn't find, mind you, this was the plastic one, but you know, I kind of had to juggle the pros and the cons and still say, okay, have I got 7 out of 10 just the same? And it was the people who I asked, when I would even just mention the idea, they didn't see the product, and they would almost jump onto my lap and they'd say, oh my God, look at this scar. I had people that were showing me active, still scabbing scars from having grated. And so I knew, like, it was almost like an emotional response I was getting from people, like, oh yeah, great product, I'd buy one. That gave me, sometimes you're a bit down if people are negative about it, and you just remember those people, and hopefully there's enough of them.
Yeah, that's right. And then you went on to developing your brand and packaging and the whole launch process of your website. By the way, I love your name, SAFEGRATE.
Oh, thanks. And you know what? That wasn't my first name. That was
Oh,
another
really?
screw up I made.
Oh, because it's
Yeah.
trademarked, right?
We've applied for a trademark
Okay.
in Canada, and I've just recently submitted for the US. With friends and I, we went through 1,000 names, and I came up with the name Grip and Grate, because you know, you're gripping the food and then you're grating away. And I had a friend that was a trademark agent, and she said she could help me. She was very busy, but that she had to rely on me to do the email searches to make sure there was nothing out there. And I thought I had, but obviously I hadn't, because after she submitted on my behalf in the United States and I think in Canada, so that's costing me, it cost $1,000 on average to submit in the US for a trademark. I just went online for Grip and Grate. I found 3 graters that were called Grip and Grate. And I actually also had started the work. This is maybe what's going to be your next question. How did I get that packaging all done? I had a graphic artist that I just found online. I looked at her gallery and I really liked her products, and she was kind of food oriented. And the other lady was based in Alberta. She had great stuff. And I thought, I want someone local. So I chose someone here in Vancouver. And I'm really glad for that, because we had a lot of coffee meetups where we would talk about packaging. And she had started on some of the like Grip and Grate. And then I said, stop, I have to change. And then I came up with SAFEGRATE. And I really searched high and low. And, you know, sometimes what you think is a disaster turns out in the end, you're so thankful that it happened. I agree. Like, I agree with you. I think it's a better name than Grip and Grate.
I agree. It's such an easy name to remember, and it's so intuitive as to what you're trying to do with the product. Like Grip and Grate, it doesn't mean necessarily that you'll be safe, whereas SAFEGRATE is saying what the function is that it's going to keep you safe. So I love that. I think it's brilliant. Sometimes
Okay.
these little mistakes are blessings in disguise, and we just need to embrace them. So that's great. Great.
Do you, if I had $1 for every time someone has made fun of that, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, get it.
I'm sure. Oh, I guess it's not the first time someone said that. All
No.
right. So you've worked on packaging with a designer, and you've registered your brand, and then you've gone to the website design. I'm sure that you had someone help you with the website design. How was that whole process of the whole branding and getting it to the market?
Well, that part wasn't hard. The biggest challenge for me is my lack of knowing about e-commerce, and even just using, like, I mean, I've used computers with my job and stuff, but sometimes it was very specific programs I was working with. I didn't know how to create a website, or I didn't even know the difference. So I went to a firm that I saw advertised in our local community newspaper, and it was Glacier Media, which is actually quite big here in Canada. And they said they'll start people right from scratch. Like, I went and had a meeting with them, and I had such a good feeling they would look after me. And they advised starting out to create a landing page as opposed to a website, because it was my goal not to sell my product direct to the consumer. So you need a website if you're going to do that, whether you go through Shopify or, you know, yourself or whatever. So I paid them the money with the firm they used, and there was back and forth. One thing I'm so thankful for, I paid money. One of the mompreneurs out here in Vancouver through the meetings, I learned she's a videographer and a professional photographer. And she came to my house and made quite a few professional photos for me that I have used nonstop in all of my packaging. Even now, I finally have learned how to create my own Amazon ads or Facebook ads or Pinterest ads. Like, I'm learning as you
Nice.
go.
That's amazing. Yes, I do agree that fantastic photos and videos of showing your product are priceless because when you're online, you can't hold it and try it out and then whatever. You're relying on photos and videos. So I think that was a very smart move to hire that out for sure. And you are also on Amazon.
Yes.
How did you find that process and what do you find is the key to getting success and traction in Amazon?
It was so challenging, but you hear all the sellers say that. It is so challenging. But having said that, where else can you go? If I wish I had an American map of all the places where I have sold a SAFEGRATE, I didn't even know these towns existed. So it is a fantastic opportunity you are crazy to ignore as far as I'm concerned. So it took me hours and hours and hours and hours to get signed up as a professional seller. You have to decide, am I just going to be pay them a certain amount each time I sell a unit, or am I going to be a professional seller where I just pay a monthly fee irrespective of the quantity? And I had such high hopes I'd be selling large quantities. I went that route. And then to figure out how to create your store. But I did it. Honestly, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that is the absolute truth. You just have to be persistent. Sometimes I did get help. Sometimes I did it on my own. And even the first time I had to figure out how to send them a shipment, took me hours and hours and hours. But now I can do it in like 20 minutes. You almost have to go through it, I think, to figure it out. And just recently now, like I'm getting better at learning how to advertise on Amazon, which I think is the smart route for me to go to try and create awareness about my product. I'm trying to use a bunch of different social media. People need to become aware of it. It's because it's such a different, unique product. They don't even know it's out there.
Right. Well, it's a new invention, so they don't even know how to search for it.
No, they don't. That's exactly right. And Amazon does create a lot of helpful videos on getting started. It is challenging. You got to want to do it.
Right. Well, I noticed you're on Amazon Prime, which is key. I love Amazon Prime. Just a little advertisement for them, but we order everything through that. So that was a smart move on your part.
Well, it was simply, I did not want to ship out. So you have a choice. You do fulfillment by Amazon, meaning they'll ship and then they'll take care of returns. They take the money and you have to pay them an extra fee for that. Or do they take the order for you and then they send that order to you and you ship it out? So people are maybe 50-50 in what they choose to do. But my product's relatively low priced. I thought, gosh, the postage is going to be the price of the unit. And I did want free shipping. So I thought that would be advantageous for me with them. So the way that you become available for Prime shipping is to simply sell fulfillment by Amazon. So you have them ship on your behalf, and then automatically they'll say, we'll ship it for free. Like
Oh, wow.
Anyone that has a Prime membership is eligible for that.
Oh, lovely. Awesome.
Hopefully people are going to be learning from my mistakes, because I remember meeting with somebody who had successfully gone through this. And one of my first questions to her was, if you could do things differently starting over, what would you do differently?
Right.
And I learned from her, so hopefully your listeners will be able to learn
Absolutely.
from my errors.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think it's the most important thing is to ask people who have been there what they did and how they would do it differently. So that's brilliant. And I forgot to ask you about the manufacturing process. How did you find your manufacturer and do all that? Because I know that's a big stumbling block for people.
Oh, I swear to God, that's the most challenging step in the process, particularly for Canadians. If you are looking for a manufacturer in China, they are going to knock down your door offering their services. They'll say, we'll do this for you, we'll do that, we'll make it so easy. Nobody comes to you here in Canada. I had trouble with manufacturers answering my phone calls, trying to get information.
Wow.
So I really, really wanted to have my product manufactured in Canada. That was really kind of important to me. It's probably important to all of us if we have a choice. And I had sourced, it was just going online, looking for Googling stainless steel manufacturers. And I came
Wow.
up with about 10 names, and most of them are based in Ontario. It's kind of our manufacturing heartland. But there were quite a few, there were some that I also checked out. I mean, wouldn't it be fantastic to have a manufacturer right here in BC? Most of them, when I got price quotes, it just wasn't feasible for my product. I just wouldn't have been able to even break even, to bring it to the market. And I spoke to a really nice man, this guy that said, this is the cheapest we can do it for you. And I knew it's not feasible. And he said, I think you're going to have to get it made in China. And I just cringed. I'm like, I didn't want to do that. And he said, I think you should revisit that. Why is that such a negative thing for you? If some of the top business people have made that choice, they've already done careful analysis. So online, I found a firm that was based in the US that could help you find a manufacturer in China. And so they did a prototype for me there. And to be honest, I preferred it to the one I had made here. And I was really happy. Their price came back fantastic. Would be possible to make money, which is a very, very sad story about our manufacturing in North America.
Yeah.
That's what happened, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
that's why there's so much stuff on the market, because you can get it made. It's financially feasible to get it made and to turn a profit. And it's worked out fantastic. I paid extra to have it shipped right to my house because I store it in a garage in my backyard. So in a way, it was seamless. And this sourcing company, I'd say to them, so what's in it for you? And so I had to pay them a commission for each item. I think it was like 5% of
Okay.
cost of the product, which to me was very feasible because the product was already so low priced. And then I thought, in the future, if it gets more popular, I'll be able to order more. So that 5%, like my price will go down. It was worth it because of the lack of stress it created for me. Just the
Right.
comfort that they actually took on the quality control assessments and stuff.
Oh, that's fabulous. And did they charge you an upfront fee at all? Or just the percentage commission?
They did not actually.
Oh,
No.
wow.
No,
Okay.
I know. It was almost risky for them. So
Wow.
it was a win-win all around that I remember. I wasn't charged up front. So when I was charged, let's say for a prototype, they would probably roll their fee into that. And I guess they were just gauging as I went along whether I was reliable as well. Because I had to pay, even for my first order, I had to pay 50% up front before I got anything in my hands. And actually, once it was manufactured and shipped to the boat, once it was at the dock, I had to pay the other 50% before they would release it onto the boat.
Okay.
And so you're like, oh my God, are they releasing really poor quality product? Because I've heard stories, I've heard disaster stories from people that way. So it really pays to have a good company, or to have to feel very secure in the people that are working on your behalf to assure quality control.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's worth to pay that a little bit extra when you don't know that area of expertise, and manufacturing is one of them, especially if you're going to go to China. And I agree with you. It's too bad that we can't find manufacturers here. I've spoken to so many people, and of course they would prefer to manufacture here, but they can never find a company that's willing to do it for the amount that they need to be profitable. So it's such a shame. And so you mentioned you you store the products in your backyard or your shed or your garage or
Yeah, we have a huge garage in our backyard.
nice. That's amazing. And then you distribute it from your house basically.
So I have a background in sales. So to start out with, Amazon sales were so low because nobody knew about my product. Nobody was buying it, and I wasn't smart. I didn't have smart advertising right up front. So I'm like, okay, I got to get out to the kitchen stores. I need to get out to stores around here and get them to buy it. I was very confident that I could do that. And I was pretty successful. I got local home hardwares. I got a Canadian Tire. I got one of the biggest kitchen stores. Like, you always prioritize what are the big influencing stores if you could get in. Some of them are really tough. And that's where your experience and expertise becomes helpful for people with the large retailers. So the little smaller stores, I was really lucky. The big one here, Gourmet Warehouse, she was really interested right away, wanted to see it the next day. They got samples. Actually, because of them, 2 months later, they demonstrated it on TV on a cooking show.
Cool.
So I can say as seen on TV.
That's right.
So I would just deliver it and had to figure out all the processes for taking orders and receiving cash and getting a bookkeeper to kind of help me. But I always wanted to be able to ship to retailers, and I wanted to go across Canada. And I was in discussions with a distributor, but anyhow, the pricing, we couldn't come to an agreement on pricing. And I'm so thankful in the end, because I have a better scenario that turned out. I was going in all the kitchen stores, and I noticed they all had this one product. It's called Jude's Miracle Cloth. If you haven't got one, you should buy one. I knew it was an awesome product, like for cleaning stuff in your kitchen, stainless steel and all that, just windows. But it was in every store. I'm like, that sales rep is so good. And so I go to the stores. I'm like, who's your sales rep? Maybe he'd like to sell my product. Well, anyhow, I couldn't connect with this person, the sales reps, for some reason. So I just emailed Jude's Miracle Cloth and got in touch with her. And I said, could you please tell me who your sales rep is in BC? Because they're doing an excellent job and I've invented a product, blah, blah, blah. And she actually got back to me 3 weeks later. I thought, oh, I'm not going to hear from them. Bless her heart, man. I think it was the owner. I think she's actually in her 80s now. And it's a real product success story, actually.
Wow.
And she said, well, we have a company that we have a sales agency that sell for me across Canada with all their reps. So how about you get in touch with them, tell them Jude sent you. So I emailed them, and I sent a promotional kind of email with video that had been made and my nice photographs that had been made. And they were interested enough, they wanted samples. And this was right around the time when COVID started shutting down. And luckily for me, they really liked the product, and they have said they want to sell it. So they have 8 reps across Canada now selling it. So when they get an order from a store, it comes to me, and I just go out to my garage and I pack it up and I ship it out to the individual store.
Fantastic. So if you were to look on your website, could you find out like all the stores where it's located?
Not yet. So once I go to a website, I'll be able to do that. But right now, I have a little section on my landing page that says, are you interested in becoming a retailer? That email will come to me with their information, and then I forward it straight to the Stella sales rep. So, which is the proper procedure since they're representing me.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's how it's happening right now.
Do you know how many stores you're in Canada?
Well, I'm in a fair bit here in the Lower Mainland, because the company had asked for a summary when they took over, and I had close to 30 stores. He's like, wow, you've done a good job. I remember going over to the island, going to every kitchen store, and a lot of them were willing to take it on. And it's been a lot slower east because COVID hit, and the stores were closed, and these poor stores, right? I mean, they had stock that was just collecting dust. And so I probably now have it in 15 stores outside of BC, which is not very much. Like they also are kind of disappointed. It's just the circumstances with COVID right now. I mean, I just got another home hardware. And so whether I can at some point then go to the head office and we can get an order for all the home hardwares across Canada, and I've been trying with Lee Valley Tools. They're a bit tough. I'm trying to get either a distributor or a sales agency in the US. And I do have connections, and I'm working on that. But I think I almost need to generate more interest and more sales for them to justify taking it on as a product, particularly in the US. So I have a public relations media company in the US that's working to increase exposure for me, like through either radio, TV, or print or online adverts or just information. And she's connected with producers like of some of the Fox
Oh,
shows,
cool.
and Martha Stewart and Rachel Ray. Sometimes it's faster and the people have connections. That's the route to go.
Right. Totally. Actually, that was my next question is how you're driving trial and awareness of your product.
Well, and so I did send out to quite a few influencers and even a lot of the stores, especially the kitchen stores that had cooking classes. They often, starting out, I would give them a free one. And now we offer a reduced price sample for the stores. So just right now, recently, I'm doing an advertising campaign on Pinterest in Canada. And I think it's working because I noticed my Amazon Canada sales going up. And if you're really a smart computer person, you would connect it and you would know exactly what sales are coming from those ads. And again, that's my weakness. And because I don't have a website, I just keep through Facebook and Instagram. I'm really trying a lot with my visuals because my product is so visually oriented with food and cooking and grating. It actually works when you slice as well. Like for me, I don't have a problem slicing food, so that was a non-issue. But some people have said, actually, I don't grate much, but I use it for when I'm slicing because they're at risk of cutting
Yeah,
themselves. And I'm
totally.
like, oh, that was like a whole extra feature benefit that I hadn't even considered when I had invented it. So sometimes things just work out nicely, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And out of the whole process of what you've spoken about, what did you find the most challenging?
I would say the whole e-commerce computer stuff has been the most challenging for me. I mean, I have always loved buying products online, but to know how to set up, how to like actually to be honest, I wasn't on Facebook before all this started. And so to even learn how to navigate that and
Mm.
Instagram and like even on Amazon, all the computer stuff like and making ads. But you know, I'm figuring out like people are
Yeah.
advising me, and I learned about a program called Canva that you can use. Fantastic to
Love
create
Canva.
really
Yeah.
great ads. And honestly, if I can figure it out, anybody can kind of figure it out. There is a lot of help out there if you're willing to ask. I've probably had at least 100 people help me on this journey with really
Wow.
including you, with really useful, really helpful, you know,
Mm,
information.
that's so true. And we learn so much along the process and really just a lot of things or almost everything, actually everything you could find on Google. So you can learn it yourself or you can fast track it, hire someone out. There's tons of people out there who you can hire. So yeah, it's a journey for sure. You've done so much already. What would you say is the biggest win you've had to date?
I would say my biggest win was having Stella Sales say that they wanted to sell my product across Canada for me. That was like,
Mm,
hee-haw! You know, I
yeah.
don't have that. Because I was even thinking, geez, when I go over to Vancouver Island and I go to all the stores, yes, they were all happy to take it on. But it costs a lot to take the ferry, and I actually should stay overnight. That would cost a hotel. So to have another company take it on, I have to pay them a commission for each sale, but it is so worth it to me
Mm.
because of their contacts and stuff.
Oh, for sure. And they've got fingers across the country that and relationships that you don't need to develop. You can focus on what you need to focus on. Yeah, and it's an option for people who are looking for some way to get their product out there to market. There are distributors who can do that for you rather than hiring salespeople to do it, and you may not have the budget for that yet. So they do take a percentage. Of course, you've got to factor that into your price, which is one thing, but they are the arms and feet and arms and legs, I don't know, of of your company and getting it out to people. So it's so well worth it.
Yeah, and even that whole, I had to learn what's the difference between a sales agency and a distributor. You know,
Mhm.
like that.
That's
Like for
right.
someone like you, that might be so obvious, but for someone like me, I kind of had to learn through trial and error
Yeah.
by not having really good pricing for the distributor. But like I said, it worked out because I'm really happy with this
Yeah.
sales agency. So.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you wish somebody would have told you before you started?
Well, you know, somebody I did read, and I just didn't believe it. I thought I was better than that. That it really can take a long time for a product to come to market. And I think Lori Greiner said it takes at least 1 year. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be faster than that. And it took longer because, having to switch from plastic to stainless steel and various problems. And so be patient, be persistent, but be patient. It does, just know that the process you're going through is the right process. It's the way it is. And I really I kind of had my ducks in a row financially, but because it took longer than I thought, I had been offered just a little part-time way to make some extra money. And I thought, no, I'm bringing the product to market. And I wish looking back, I had taken it. So just financially, make sure you're on good footing. If you can keep working while you're trying to get this off the ground, that's the best case scenario. And that wasn't my scenario, but I had a package. So I wasn't that bad off, but the money will take a while to come in.
It can be an expensive process, depending on what your product is, for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And how about your top tips for people who want to get started? What would you say to them?
Oh, I forget the lady's name on Dragon's Den. I looked her up and she said, just start. Like, to be an entrepreneur, just get started. And I thought, yes, because sometimes you're waiting and waiting. And the other thing too that really sat in my heart, it was Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. She quoted that persistence. She thinks persistence is the number one most important attribute of a successful entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. They just hang in there and be persistent. And there will be down days, but there will be up days more than often. And you'll look back and you'll think, oh, I can't believe what I went through and what I didn't know, but where I am now is just so glorious, so.
That's such good advice, because there are times when you think you're broken and that's it. I can think of many times. And then you realize that I just need to get over this one hurdle and the sun will be a lot brighter on the other side. And usually it is. And it's almost like the universe is testing you to see how much can you push and how badly do you want this. So I encourage people to keep going. And I love the fact that you're saying just get started, because yes, a lot of times people don't get started and they think about it and they talk themselves out of it. So that's a great point. What's in the future for you and SAFEGRATE?
The best thing you can do with the product is expand within that group or that category, because you already have your customers. So I already have thought of a redesign to make it even better than it already is. And also then I can combine it for sale with a grater. Like, you buy a SAFEGRATE and a grater combined as one. Or I also would like to expand selling in Amazon, like in Australia and United Kingdom and elsewhere. And I really do want to expand into the United States. I mean, that's a big thing. But, I have to be successful with my first product before I start expanding into all this other stuff as far as I'm concerned. So, another design probably won't come for at least another year.
Right. Actually, I forgot to mention that you have April Ideas as the company.
My company name, yeah.
Right. So you plan to develop other ideas under April Ideas that complement.
Yeah, I do have other ideas, but now that I know how much time and money it takes to product to market, I'm going to be really selective, because I had this other idea even like within 6 months, and I started designing and bringing materials home. And I remember asking some friends on a weekend, what about this? But I didn't get that 7 out of 10. I didn't get people saying, that's an awesome idea. So I'm kind of learning, right? I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just going to have to drop that idea. So I have on my phone a list. I probably have about 20 other product ideas. And so we'll see. I mean, I kind of want to get rich from this product, to be honest. I want to get my mortgage paid off. I want to be able to buy a dream, kind of like a cottage cabin thing, and then go from there.
Nice. I love it. Well, that's absolutely in the cards. And I can see this selling really well in the US. So I just wish you luck, and I know you can make it happen because you've already come so far. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, how do I say? Like, I paid for your services very early in this process. And when you say you get these kind of humps, and I was at that point, like retail and the big firms and pricing. How do you price your product? it's really hard to know how to get the right product. And, your expertise, that really helps a person like me, to feel confident in the decisions that you make going forward with your product. So, again, I just want to thank you for the skill that you brought to my journey and with this product. I feel lucky. We just met on like a webcast, right? There were 5 of us listening to someone else talk, and someone, we connected up through that. I feel kind of lucky with all the people like you that I've connected with over this journey. So thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me. And I'm really happy that I helped you. It's an honor, but I'm just in awe as to how far you've come. And I know you will continue to go further, and so excited for you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your journey with us, because I know everyone will take away so much from this and learn from what you've gone through so that they can bring their idea to market. So thank you again. And last question, can you tell us how people can find you and your products?
Oh, I'd love to hear from people. And even if anybody wants to ask advice about their journey, because people helped me, so I'm going to continue helping them if they want. So my website by itself is www.safegrate, all one word, safegrate.ca. And my email is Lori, Lori, at April-Ideas.com. You can actually send me a text if you want at 604-363-7839. My company is called April Ideas. I couldn't figure out a company name, but I'm born in April and I have lots of ideas.
Oh.
So that's where it came from.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, we're going to put all those links in the show notes, as well as your Amazon link. And I'm sure that our listeners will love to see your product and hopefully try it and buy it, because I can't wait to get mine.
Oh, thank you so much for purchasing it. And thanks for inviting me on. It's thrilling, actually, for someone like me.
It's an honor. Seriously, it's an honor. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that you came on. So thank you. Thank you for listening to the Productpreneur Podcast. If you loved this episode, we'd be so grateful if you could take a sec to subscribe, share it, and review it on Apple Podcasts. Your review will help more women build their own dream product business. By the way, if you have any feedback, comments, or questions, email me at info@nicoledelarzac.com. Until next time, keep dreaming up those product ideas.